Once upon a time, in the city of Kaduna, there lived a woman named Zainab Musa. Zainab was not just any woman. This woman was sharp like razor blade, wealthy like oil merchant, and successful like someone who had won a lottery 3 times in a row. Zainab owned 5 big restaurants across northern Nigeria. Her restaurants were so popular that people would drive from Kano, from Jos, even from Abuja, just to taste her famous tuwo shinkafa and miyan kuka. The food was so delicious that customers would leave their plates clean. Now Zainab had an assistant named Folake Adeyemi. Folake came from Ibadan and she had worked for Zainab for 7 good years. 7 years. That's longer than some people stay in the university. Folake knew everything about Zainab's business, the bank accounts, the suppliers, the receipts, the passwords, everything. She knew where Zainab kept her spare keys. She knew Zainab's ATM pin. She knew that Zainab hated cockroaches and would scream like a small girl whenever she saw one. Folake is like my right hand, Zainab would tell people. Without her, I cannot function. She's more than an assistant. She's my sister, my friend, my confidant. But you know what people say? The person you trust to cook your food is the same person who can poison your soup. And that's exactly what was happening. Every morning, like clockwork, Folake would bring Zainab her morning tea. Not just any tea, a special ginger tea with honey, served in Zainab's favorite china cup. The cup was so expensive that if you dropped it, you would need to sell your car to replace it. Good morning, Madam Z, Folake would say with a smile so bright it could light up a dark room. Your tea is ready. And Zainab would smile back and drink the tea, not knowing, not even suspecting for a tiny second that Folake was adding something extra to that tea. Something that would make Zainab sick slowly, gradually, like how termites eat wood. You don't see the damage until the whole house is ready to collapse. For 3 months, Zainab had been feeling weak like battery that was dying. Her bones ached, her head pounded like drums at a festival, and her stomach churned like garri in hot water. She had visited Dr. Chukwudi Okonkwo at the teaching hospital, but the doctor scratched his head like a confused monkey. Madam Zainab, your tests show nothing specific, Dr. Chukwudi said, adjusting his glasses. Maybe it's stress, you know. Running 5 restaurants is not beans. It's not small work. But doctor, I feel like I'm dying, Zainab protested. Every day I feel worse and worse. Take these vitamins and rest more, the doctor advised, scribbling on his prescription pad with speed that would make a Formula 1 driver jealous. But the vitamins did nothing, absolutely nothing. Zainab continued to get weaker and weaker, thinner and thinner, until her clothes hung on her body like oversized abada on a small child. Meanwhile, Folake was busy. The woman was not just sitting down and twiddling her thumbs. No. While Zainab was getting weaker, Folake was getting bolder. She had been slowly transferring money from Zainab's business accounts into accounts she had opened with fake names. And we're not talking small money. Millions of nairas, money that could buy mansions in Lekki Phase 1. Folake's plan was simple but wicked. Poison Zainab slowly until she died, then claimed the restaurant using forged documents that she had carefully prepared. She had even befriended Zainab's lawyer, Barrister Emeka Nwosu, taking him to expensive dinners and laughing at his terrible jokes. Folake was playing chess while everyone else was playing draft. But here's the thing about wickedness. When you dig a pit for someone, make sure you don't fall into it yourself. One hot afternoon in June, something unexpected happened. Zainab's younger brother Khalid came to visit from Minna. Khalid was a pharmacist, smart like a calculator, suspicious like a cat, and he noticed immediately that something was wrong with his sister. Sister Zainab, you look like a ghost, Khalid exclaimed, his eyes wide with shock. What is happening to you? The last time I saw you 3 months ago, you were healthy and strong. Now you look like you need blood transfusion urgently. I don't know, Khalid. Zainab said weakly, her voice soft like whisper. The doctors said they can't even find anything wrong, but I feel terrible. Khalid's pharmacist's brain started working, like computer processing information. He has seen cases like this before. Slow poisoning. His mind went straight there like GPS with no traffic. Sister, I want to take some of your blood and hair samples to my lab. Khalid said seriously. Something is not adding up. This doesn't sound like ordinary sickness. Folake, who was serving them fruit juice in the living room, nearly dropped the tray. Her hand shook small, but she quickly recovered, smiling like everything was fine. Ah, Khalid, you worry too much now, Folake said, laughing nervously. Madam just needs rest. She has been working herself to death. I mean, working too hard. Did you catch that? She almost said working herself to death. See how the truth was trying to jump out of her mouth like a grasshopper. But Khalid wasn't convinced. This man's suspicious radar was beeping like microwave. He looked at Folake with suspicious eyes, like a hawk watching a chicken. Folake, how long have you been working for my sister again? Khalid asked the question casually, but his tone had weight like a bag of cement. 7 years, sir, Folake answered, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. 7 years. Interesting. And you prepare all her meals? Not all, sir. Just breakfast. Sometimes, and her tea. Her tea. Khalid repeated slowly, like he was tasting the words. That tea you give her every morning? Yes, sir. Special ginger tea. Madam loves it. I see. The room became tense. The air was thick like fufu that hasn't been properly turned. Zainab, even in her weak state, could feel that something was happening, but she couldn't quite grasp what. That night, Khalid collected samples of everything. Zainab's blood, hair, urine, and even that special ginger tea Folake always prepared. He packed everything carefully in sterile containers and drove straight to his advanced lab in Mina. 3 days later, the results came back. And when I tell you Khalid nearly fainted, I am not exaggerating. The tea contained arsenic. Yes, arsenic. The same poison they used to kill rats. Small amounts that wouldn't kill immediately, but will slowly destroy the body from inside, like termites eating a house foundation. Khalid's hand trembled as he held the report. His sister was being murdered. Slowly, deliberately, calculated murder. But Khalid was smart. He didn't rush. The mouse that wants to catch the cat must move with wisdom. He knew that if he confronted Folake directly, she might run away or claim innocence. He needed evidence, solid evidence that would scatter her defense like bomb scattering buildings. So Khalid did something clever. He installed tiny hidden cameras in Zainab's kitchen. Cameras that were so small, you would need a microscope to see them. Then he told Zainab to pretend she was traveling to Abuja for a week for business. They staged everything perfectly, even packing her bags where Folake could see. Fola, please take care of the house while I'm gone, Zainab said, acting like she was really leaving. I'll be back next week. Don't worry, madam, Folake said, with the same bright smile plastered on her face. Everything will be fine. Just rest and recover. Do you want me to prepare your tea for the journey? No, I'll get something on the road, Zainab said quickly, following Khalid's instructions. But Zainab didn't go to Abuja. No, she went to Khalid's house in Mina, where they watched the camera feeds on laptops like people watching Hollywood movie. And what they saw would make your blood turn cold like ice block. That evening, after Folake thought Zainab had left, she brought out a small bottle from her handbag. Inside the bottle was a white powder. She mixed it with the ginger, with the honey, preparing the tea exactly as she always did. Then she did something shocking. She tasted it small, made sure it was perfect, and poured it down the sink. Good riddance to bad rubbish, Folake said to herself, laughing wickedly. Soon, this house will be mine. All of it. The restaurant, the cars, the money, everything. That foolish woman thinks I'm her friend. Friend, I'm her nightmare. I've been waiting for 7 years, playing the loyal dog, but soon I'll be the owner. She danced around the kitchen like someone who had won a lottery. Her feet moving second. She even opened Zainab's wine cabinet and poured herself expensive champagne. To the soon-to-be-late Madam Zainab, she toasted, raising the glass to the air. Thank you for trusting me with your passwords, your account, and your life. Khalid and Zainab were watching this on the laptop, and Zainab's tears were flowing like river during rainy season. She couldn't believe it. 7 good years of trusting this woman, treating her like family, paying her well, even paying for her mother's surgery when the old woman was sick. That witch! Zainab cried, her voice broken. I treated her like my own sister. I helped her when she had nothing. Calm down, sister, Khalid said, placing his hand on her shoulder. We have all the evidence now. She's finished, completely finished. But Khalid wanted more. He wanted to catch not just the mouse, but the whole rat family. He suspected Folake wasn't working alone, so they continued watching. And true to Khalid's suspicion, at around 10 p.m. that night, someone knocked on the door. Folake opened it, and the person walked in. Barrister Emeka Nwosu, Zainab's own lawyer. Ah, Amy, Folake greeted him like an old friend, hugging him tight. Come in, you are right on time. The lawyer entered, removing his agbada and sitting down comfortably like he owned the place. So, when is she supposed to die? Barrister Emeka asked casually, as if he was asking about the weather. I need to know so I can have the documents ready. You've been doing this for 3 months now. Why is she so stubborn? Why won't she just die and leave us in peace? Folake laughed, serving him wine. Relax, Emeka. The poison is working, just slowly. We can't make it too obvious. But Khalid's visit has complicated things a bit. That man is too sharp. He's like a bloodhound. Then we need to speed things up. Emeka said, his face serious like Undertaker. When she's dead, I'll present the forged will. According to this document, she left everything to you because you were like a daughter to her. Nobody will suspect anything. And what's your cut? Folake asked, pouring more wine. 40-60. I get 40% of everything, Emeka stated firmly. That was our agreement. Fine, but we need to be careful. If we mess this up, we won't mess it up, Emeka interrupted. I've been a lawyer for 15 years. I know how to handle these things. Just make sure you increase the dosage slightly when she returns. We can't waste time. On the laptop screen in Mina, Khalid and Zainab were watching these conversations with their mouths open wide like hippo yawning. The betrayal was double, not just from Folake, but from Emeka, who had handled Zainab's legal matter for 6 years. We need to call the police, Khalid said, reaching for his phone. Wait, Zainab stopped him, wiping her tears. Her eyes had changed. The weakness was still there, but something else had entered. Anger, pure righteous anger that burned hot like coal. I want to confront them. I want to see their faces when they know they failed. Sister, that's dangerous. I don't scare. Zainab's voice was stronger now, fed by fury. They tried to kill me, Khalid. Me. The woman who helped Folake pay her rent when she was struggling. The woman who trusted Emeka with my legal documents. They wanted to dance on my grave. Well, now I'm going to show them that I'm not dead yet. Not even close. The tortoise said that when they think you are down, that is the best time to show them that you can still bite. So they made a plan, a beautiful savage plan that would scatter those two criminals like a bomb blast. 3 days later, Zainab returned home, but she didn't return alone. She came back with Khalid and 3 police officers dressed in plain clothes so Folake wouldn't suspect, and a video camera to record everything. Folake, I'm back. I missed you. Zainab called her cheerfully as she entered the house, acting like she had missed her dear assistant. Folake's face went through several emotions in 3 seconds. Surprise, confusion, fear, and then fake joy. Madam, Welcome back. You look better. Yes, much better. It was a lie. Zainab looked terrible, but Folake had to say something nice. Thank you, my dear. I think the trip did me good. Please prepare my special tea. I really missed it. Those words nearly made Folake collapse. Special tea? Now? With all these people in the house? Madam, maybe you should rest first. You just got back. Nonsense. I want my tea now. You know how much I love it. Or is there a problem? Zainab's eyes were sharp, boring into Folake like drill. No, madam. I'll prepare it right away. Falake's legs were shaking, like a person walking on ice as she went to the kitchen. She was sweating like Christmas goat. What should she do? What if she prepared the tea with poison? Would anyone suspect? If she didn't, would madam notice the taste was different? She decided to prepare normal tea, just the normal ginger tea without the arsenic. Her hands trembled as she walked, mixing the ginger, adding honey. She kept looking around nervously like a thief in the church. When she brought the tea out, Zainab took the cup and looked at it carefully. Zainab said loudly, "This tea looks different somehow. Folake, are you sure you made it the way you always do?" "Yes, madam, the same way. I swear." "The same way?" Zainab's voice rose. "The same way you've been making it for 3 months, with the special ingredients you've been adding?" The room became silent. You could hear a pin drop. Even the wall gecko stopped moving. Falake's face went from brown to grey, then to white, like someone had poured paint thinner on her. "Madam, I don't understand." "You don't understand?" Zainab stood up, and despite her weakness, she looked like a warrior queen. "You don't understand how you've been poisoning me? You don't understand how you've been planning to steal everything from me? You don't understand?" "Madam, please, I can explain." "Explain." Khalid stepped forward, holding his phone up. "Explain this." He played the video from the hidden camera. The video of Folake mixing the poison. The video of her toasting to Zainab's death. The video of her conversation with Barrister Emeka. As the video played, Folake's knees gave way. She collapsed to the floor. Please, I'm sorry. I was desperate. I needed money." "Needed money?" Zainab's voice could wake the dead. "I paid you well. I treated you like family. I trusted you." The 3 plainclothes police officers revealed themselves, bringing out their handcuffs. "Folake Adeyemi, you are under arrest for attempted murder and fraud," one officer announced, his voice official like newsreader. Folake began crying and begging. Madam, please, I'm sorry. I was influenced. It was Barrister Emeka's idea. He's the mastermind. Please forgive me. Think of my mother, my poor mother." "Your mother?" "The same mother whose hospital bills I paid." "That mother? You're a wicked, ungrateful serpent, and you will face the consequences of your actions." "But wait, who is Barrister Emeka? We need to arrest him too." At that exact moment, as if on cue like Nollywood movie, there was a knock on the door. Everyone turned to look. The police officers positioned themselves strategically. "Come in," Zainab called out. The door opened and Barrister Emeka walked in, smiling like someone who had won a case, carrying his briefcase. He stopped dead in his tracks when he saw the police officers, when he saw Folake on the floor crying, when he saw Khalid holding up his phone with that incriminating video. The man's mouth opened and closed like fish out of water. No sound came out. "Barrister Emeka Nwosu," Zainab said coldly. "My trusted lawyer. The man I paid generously for 6 years. The man who has been plotting with my assistants to kill me and steal my properties. Welcome to your judgment day." I can explain," Emeka stammered, but his briefcase fell from his hands and papers scattered everywhere, including all the forged documents. The police officers grabbed him faster than a hawk catching chicken. Before he could say, "I'm innocent," the handcuffs were already on his wrists. "You people have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you in the court of law. You're both going to prison for a very long time." "No!" Folake screamed.
Please, I'll return the money. All of it, please.
Return the money? It's too late for that. You wanted me dead. And you, Emeka, you were supposed to protect my interest as my lawyer, but instead you were planning my funeral. Both of you are wicked, heartless monsters. As the police dragged them away, both criminals were crying and begging, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. When you plant thorns, don't expect to harvest hibiscus. But the story doesn't end there. During the investigation, police discovered that Folake and Emeka had done this before. 2 other times. They had killed 2 elderly wealthy women in Jos and Benin the same way, slowly poisoning them, forging documents, stealing their properties. But they got greedy and overconfident. That was why they failed with Zainab. The snake that swallows too many eggs will eventually choke. The court case was fast because evidence was overwhelming. Overwhelming like flood during rainy season. Video evidence, laboratory reports showing the poison, bank transfer records, testimony from witnesses, everything. Folake and Emeka couldn't escape even if they had wings. The judge, Justice Adamu Ibrahim, a no-nonsense man who hated criminals with passion, sentenced them both to 25 years in prison. That was quarter of a century. They would both grow old behind bars, eating prison food, sleeping on hard bunks, far away from the wealth they had tried to steal. When the sentence was read, gravel bang, both criminals collapsed in the dock. Their families wailed, their lawyers shook their heads, but Zainab stood tall, vindicated. After the trial, Zainab's health began to improve rapidly. With the poison out of her system and proper medical treatment, she recovered like a person who was resurrected. Within 3 months, she was back to her old self, strong, energetic, sharp like a brand new blade. She hired a new assistant, this time doing thorough background checks that would make FBI jealous. She also hired a new lawyer, a young brilliant woman named Amina Bello from Castena, who came highly recommended and whose integrity was solid as rock. Zainab's restaurants continued to thrive, even more successful than before, because news of her survival spread everywhere. People came from all over Nigeria just to meet the woman who had survived the murder plot and brought her attackers to justice. "How did you do it, Madam Zainab?" reporters would ask her, and Zainab would smile. Not the bitter smile, but the smile of victory, and say, "I had my brother's wisdom, God's protection, and the truth on my side. No matter how long the night is, morning must come. I survived because it was not yet my time, and those who plotted against me have reaped what they sowed." The moral lesson of this story reminds us that trust is good, but verification is better. Don't trust anyone blindly. Even those that have been with you for years, always verify and stay alert. The hand that feeds you should not be the hand that destroys you. Betrayal from those close to us hurts the deepest, but such people always get caught eventually. When digging a grave for others, make sure you're not digging yourself too. Evil plans always backfire on the planner. Family who watch your back are worth more than gold. Khalid's suspicion and quick thinking saved Zainab's life. Never take your family for granted. Justice may be slow, but it is sure. Folake and Emeka thought they would get away with their crimes, but truth always comes to light. Prima jumped out of bed with her heart pounding like a drum set at a wedding ceremony. "Why is Papa Timi shouting at this time of the night?" she asked herself, walking towards the window with shaky legs. She peeked through the curtain and what she saw made her entire body freeze. There, standing in the compound, dirty, tired but alive, was her husband. Prima screamed silently in her head, covering her mouth with her trembling hand. This can't be happening. He was supposed to die. She quickly checked her WhatsApp. No messages from the kidnappers, no calls, nothing. They had not confirmed the job was done. They had just released him. But why? Why did they release him? I paid them money. I gave them 2 million naira already. Why didn't they do the job? But she couldn't show her feelings. She had to act. She had to pretend. She quickly ran to her wardrobe, removed her nightgown and wore a more modest one that showed she was a concerned wife. Then she rubbed her eyes to make them red as if she had been crying. She pinched her cheeks. She messed up her hair. She made herself look like someone who had been suffering. Then she ran outside, screaming like a professional actress in Nollywood.
My husband, my darling husband. Thank God you are alive. I thought I had lost you.
She ran towards Chief Ebikini with open arms, tears flowing down her face like tap water. But those tears, they were not tears of joy. They were tears of frustration and anger that her plan had failed. Chief Ebikini was too weak to even respond. He just stood there like a zombie, letting his wife hug him and cry on his shoulder.
Take him inside,
Prima ordered Papa Timi. Go and prepare hot water for him to bathe. Bring food. Call the doctor, my husband needs medical attention. Everyone was running around, helping the chief, praising God for his safe return. But inside Prima's heart, she was cursing the kidnappers, cursing her luck and everything. For the next 5 days, Prima played the role of caring wife perfectly. She cooked for Chief Ebikini. She gave him his medication. She sat beside him and asked about his terrible ordeal. She held his hand and smiled at him. But in her mind, she was planning her escape. She was thinking, I need to divorce this man. I need to take what I can and run. This marriage is suffocating me. Chief Ebikini on his own part was just grateful to be alive. He had no idea his wife had planned his murder. The kidnappers had not told him anything. They had just kept him locked up, released him suddenly, and that was it. He thought maybe his family was gathering money and the kidnappers got tired of waiting. Thank God they released me, he told Prima one evening as she was serving him dinner. I thought I was going to die in that place. Don't talk about death, my husband, Prima said, putting on her fake concerned face. God has brought you back to me. That is all that matters. Liar. Hypocrite. Ha! If Judas was alive, she would have clapped for Prima. Meanwhile, Tombra was watching everything from a distance, waiting for the perfect time to strike. She was like a lioness on the grass, watching her prey, waiting for the right moment to pounce. The elders say that whoever digs a pit for another person will surely fall into it themselves, and very soon both Prima and Tombra were going to fall into the deepest pits ever dug in human history. The karma was coming, and it was coming with vengeance. 1 week after Chief Ebikini was released, Tombra gave Rezo the green light. It is time, she said on the phone, her voice cold and calculated. Kidnap the wife. Today, this evening. She always goes to the market around 5 p.m. Grab her there. Roger that, Madam Boss. That evening, Prima drove her expensive car to the market to buy some things. She was humming a happy tune, thinking about her boyfriend Femi, planning their future together, completely unaware of the danger that was following her like a shadow. As she parked her car and stepped out, 3 men appeared from nowhere and grabbed her. Help me! Help! Somebody help me! Prima screamed, but before anyone could react, they had already bundled her into a waiting van. The van drove off at top speed. Prima found herself in the same uncompleted building where her husband had been kept. The same dirty floor, the same smell of urine and cement, the same darkness. What do you people want from me? Prima kept screaming, her expensive makeup running down her face. My husband was just released. Why are you doing this to my family? The kidnappers laughed. Madam, relax. We just want money. 70 million naira. Tell your husband to pay and you will go home. 70 million. Prima nearly collapsed. Where will he find such money? That's not our problem. Find it or stay here forever. Back at the mansion, when Chief Ebikini heard that his wife had been kidnapped, he went mad with worry. Not again. Oh God, my wife, not my wife. God, why? He was crying and pulling his grey hair. But then something strange happened. Tombra came to visit him. She knocked on his door, her face looking sad and concerned. Uncle, I heard about Auntie Prima. I'm so sorry. Tombra, my daughter, Chief Ebikini said, crying like a baby. What is happening to this family? First me, now my wife.
What did we do to deserve this?
Tombra sat down beside him, holding his hand like a caring niece. Uncle, I know this is hard, but you have to pay the ransom. You have to save Auntie.
But Tombra, where will I find 70 million naira? I don't have such money just sitting around. I don't.
Tombra pretended to think hard. Then she said slowly, as if an idea just came to her. Uncle, what about Auntie's businesses? The supermarkets, the hotels. You can sell them and pay. Then, later, you can build back again. Chief Ebikimi looked at her, his eyes red from crying. Sell my wife's businesses? But those are her life's work. Uncle, Tombra said seriously, holding his shoulders and looking into his eyes. What is more important, business or your wife's life? When I was kidnapped, when my siblings were kidnapped, you people did not hesitate. You sold properties, you borrowed money. You did everything to save them. Why are you now hesitating to save your own wife? The words hit Chief Ebikimi like hammer. Tombra was right. When his nephews and nieces were kidnapped, he had contributed money without thinking twice. How could he now hesitate to save his own wife? You are right, Tombra, he said, wiping his tears. You are absolutely right. I will sell the business, every single one of them. I will pay the ransom. I will save my wife. Tombra smiled inside. Within 3 days, Chief Ebikimi had sold all of Prima's businesses at throwaway prices because he was desperate. He gathered the 70 million naira and paid the ransom. Prima was released and brought back home. But something strange had happened while Prima was in the kidnappers' den. Something that would change everything. You see, while Prima was locked up in that dark room, she heard voices, familiar voices. One day, while pretending to be asleep, she heard the kidnapper talking on the phone outside her room. Yes, madam, we've collected the money. We will share it tomorrow. No worry. Everything went smoothly. Madam Boss. Who is Madam Boss? Prima's ears sharpened like a cat hearing a mouse. Then a few hours later, she heard footsteps approaching. She quickly closed her eyes, pretending to be unconscious. Through her half-closed eyelids, she saw a figure enter the uncompleted building. The person was talking to the kidnappers, and that voice was familiar. Prima's heart nearly stopped. She opened her eyes slightly, carefully, and looked at the person. It was Tombra, her own niece-in-law. Tombra was standing outside there, counting money with the kidnappers. Oh my God. Prima's heart was racing. So it was Tombra all along. She's the one behind all these kidnappings. She kidnapped her own siblings. She kidnapped my husband, and now she has kidnapped me. Prima wanted to jump up and scream, but she controlled herself. She had to be smart. She had to wait and gather information. And in that moment, she knew exactly who her enemy was, and a wicked plan began to form in her mind, a plan for revenge. When Prima was finally released and brought back home, Chief Ebikimi was crying with joy.
My wife! My darling wife! Thank God you are safe.
But Prima was not feeling joy. She was feeling anger, burning hot anger. Not only had Tombra kidnapped her and stolen her businesses, but Prima also remembered something else. When she had tried to have her husband killed, those kidnappers had somehow refused and released him instead. Could it be, Prima thought, that Tombra found out about my plan and decided to punish me by kidnapping me and taking my businesses? The more Prima thought about it, the more it made sense. This was not just about money, this was about revenge. For 2 weeks, Prima played along. She acted like a traumatized victim. She cried, she stayed at home and acted afraid, but secretly, she was planning. Few weeks later, she saw Tombra's advert on her WhatsApp status for a post of housemaid. She thought it was a perfect opportunity to find out what Tombra was up to, so she hired a private investigator, a sharp woman named Kemi, who specialized in undercover work. Kemi, Prima said to the investigator in a secret meeting, "I need you to apply for a job as housemaid in Tombra's house. I need you to spy on her. I need you to get me evidence, photos, video recordings, everything. Can you do that?" Kemi smiled. She was a professional. "Madam, consider it done." Within days, Kemi had transformed herself into a simple village-looking girl, looking for a housemaid work. She saw Tombra's post on social media advertising for a housemaid position. She applied and was hired immediately. Tombra had no idea she had just hired a spy into her home. For 1 month, Kemi worked in Tombra's house, cleaning, cooking and spying. She took secret photos of the expensive cars. She recorded conversation between Tombra and Priye where they discussed their criminal activities. She even found documents that showed the money they had collected. Everything was sent to Prima. Prima now had a full file of evidence proving that Tombra was behind all the kidnappings, and then she waited for the perfect moment to strike, the perfect moment to destroy Tombra completely, and that moment was coming very soon. The burial ceremony for Tombra's mother was only 2 days away. The whole family would be gathered, all the relatives, all the villagers, the perfect audience for the perfect drama. Priya smiled wickedly. "Tombra, you think you are smart, you think you have won, but soon, in front of everybody, I will expose you, I will destroy you, I will make sure you spend the rest of your life in prison." This battle was about to reach explosive and dramatic ending. The day of reckoning was coming. The day when secrets will be revealed. The day everybody was waiting for finally arrived. The day of Mama's burial. The day the whole family would gather to say their final goodbyes. The sun rose that Saturday morning, bright and hot like the eye of God himself was watching everything that was about to happen. The whole village was buzzing with activity. Everywhere people were moving and setting up things. The DJ was testing his speakers. The music was blasting so loud that even the dead could hear it. Caterers were cooking big pots of jollof rice, fried rice and pepper soup. The aroma was filling the air, making people's stomach rumble. The casket containing Mama's body had been brought to the village square where the ceremony would take place. It was a beautiful white casket, decorated with gold handles and surrounded by flowers. It looked like something from a royal funeral. Family members were arriving one by one, dressed in their finest attires. The women were wearing expensive laces and George wrappers with matching blouses that had hair ties. The men were wearing agbada and senator styles. Everywhere you looked, there was color. Gospower arrived with his wife, looking like royalty. But Atari came with his Canadian swagger. All 5 siblings came standing together present, looking sad but dignified. And there was Chief Ebikimi, looking older and more tired than before. The kidnapping experience had aged him. His wife Prema was beside him, wearing a beautiful black lace and dark sunglasses that covered half her face. But behind those sunglasses, her eyes were sharp and alert, like a hawk watching its prey. And of course, there was Tombra and Priye. They had dressed in cheap-looking clothes to maintain their poor relatives' image. But if you looked closely at Tombra's face, you would see something new. Her eyes were shining with excitement and not sadness. She was excited because after today, all of the relatives went back to their different countries. She and Priye would be free to enjoy their stolen wealth without anyone suspecting anything. She had no idea that her world was about to crash. At exactly 10 a.m., the MC, a tall man with a voice like a radio presenter, grabbed the microphone and announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, family and friends, welcome to the burial ceremony of our beloved Mama. Please take your seats, because this program is about to begin." Everyone found their seats. The place became quiet like a graveyard at midnight. The pastor came forward and began the service. He talked about Mama's life. He talked about how she was the good woman who raised her children with love and discipline. He talked about heaven and hell. He made long prayers that made people say, "Amen, Amen, Amen." Then came the tributes. One by one, family members went to the microphone to share their memories of Mama. God's power went first. Mama was a strong woman, he said, his voice breaking with emotion. She taught us to work hard, to be honest and always help each other. Mama, we'll miss you forever. People were crying. Handkerchiefs were coming out from bags and pockets like magic. Sister Blessing went next. Mama always said, my children, education is the key to success, and she was right, because of our encouragement, we all went to school and made something of ourselves. Mama, thank you and rest in peace. There were more crying, more tissues. Then it was time to lower the casket into the ground. 6 strong men carried the casket to the grave that had been dug. Slowly, they lowered it down until Mama's body was finally resting 6 feet under the earth. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, the pastor declared, throwing sand on the casket. And just like that, Mama was buried. People began to relax. The sad part was over. Now it was time for the entertainment part. The DJ started playing music. People were nodding their head as they were eating their food. Drinks were flowing. The atmosphere had changed from mourning to celebration, the way African funerals always do. Tombra was mingling with people, smiling, hugging relatives, acting like the perfect woman. In her mind, she was already planning her next shopping trip. Maybe I will buy another car. Maybe I will go to Dubai. But then something happened that made the whole atmosphere freeze like ice. Suddenly, Prima stood up from her seat, walked towards the DJ and took the microphone from his hand. The music stopped abruptly. Everyone turned to look at her confused. What was Chief Ebikimi's wife doing? Was she going to give a tribute? Prima cleared her throat. Good afternoon, everyone, Prima said into the microphone. Her voice was calm, but there was something dangerous in it. I know this is supposed to be a day of mourning and celebration of Mama's life, but I cannot let this day pass without revealing a terrible secret that has been destroying this family. People's mouths fell open. What secret? Tombra's heart jumped. She looked at Priye, her husband, and his face was already looking pale like that of a ghost. They both knew something bad was about to happen. For the past few months, Prima said loudly, her voice now rising, this family has been suffering. One by one, family members have been kidnapped. Gospower, Blessing, Tari, Abi, Tamuno, and even my husband and myself. Millions and millions of naira has been paid as ransom. Properties have been sold. Bank accounts have been emptied. This family has been bleeding. People were nodding. Yes, they remembered. The kidnappings had been the talk of the town. But what if I told you that all these kidnappings were not done by strangers? It was done by someone in this family, someone sitting right here among us. The crowd erupted in murmurs. People were looking at each other, confused, shocked and scared. Who is it? Someone shouted from the crowd. Prima removed her sunglasses dramatically and shouted, pointing a finger directly at Tombra. Ha! Tombra, she's the one. She's the criminal. She is the snake in this family. It was as if a bomb had exploded in the middle of the ceremony. What? Gospower jumped to his feet. What are you saying? Lies! She's lying! She's lying against me! Why would I kidnap my own family? Tombra screamed, also jumping up. Because you are greedy, Prima shouted back. That is why you would do that. Because you and your useless husband refuse to work. Because you want easy money. Because you are wicked. Tombra's husband Priye tried to run, but the young men in the crowd quickly blocked him. Where are you going, uncle? Stay here and hear the allegations. I have proof, Prima shouted, pulling out her phone. I have recordings. I have pictures. Everything. She nodded to someone at the back and suddenly, Kemi, the private investigator who had been working as a housemaid, stepped forward carrying a brick brown envelope. This woman, Prima said, pointing at Kemi, she had been working in Tombra's house for the past 1 month. She has gathered all the evidence. She had recordings of Tombra and her husband discussing their criminal activities. She has pictures of the expensive mansion they bought with stolen money. She has pictures of their new cars. Everything is here. Kemi opened the envelope and started bringing out papers and photographs. She passed them around to family members. Gospower grabbed one of the photos. It showed Tombra and Preye standing in front of a massive mansion with a Mercedes-Benz and a Lexus Jeep in the background. Tombra! Gospower roared like a wounded lion. What is this? Where did you get the money to buy these things? Tombra was stammering like a broken record. Her brain had short-circuited. She couldn't think and she couldn't speak properly. Then Kemi played the recording from her phone, loud and clear for everyone to hear. Rezo kidnapped my uncle's wife. We demand 70 million naira, force him to sell her businesses. Rezo's voice replied, Madam, it's too wicked though, but okay, we'll do it. The crowd exploded. Abomination. If you Chineke God, this is wickedness. How could she do this to her own family? Sister Blessing ran towards Tombra with tears streaming down her face. You were the one who kidnapped me? I was terrified. I thought I was going to die and it was you, my own sister. Tombra fell on her knees crying. Please, I'm sorry, I didn't... You didn't mean what? Brother Tari shouted. His face was red with anger. You didn't mean to traumatize us, or you didn't mean to steal our money. You didn't mean to be... What is it that you did not mean? Chief Ebikini was so shocked he could barely stand. He held his chest like someone having a heart attack. Tombra, my own niece, you kidnapped me. You made me sell my wife's businesses. Hey, how could you? But then Prima did something nobody expected. She turned to Chief Ebikimi with tears in her eyes and said loudly for everyone to hear, My husband, I have a confession to make. I too am guilty. What? Everyone was now confused. What was happening? When you were kidnapped, Prima said, crying real tears now, I did something terrible. I told the kidnappers to kill you. I offered them money to kill you because I was tired of our marriage, because I had a lover outside and I wanted your properties. Hey! If people thought they had shocking news before, this was even more shocking. Chief Ebikini staggered backward like someone who had been punched. You wanted me dead? Yes, Prima wailed. I'm a wicked woman, I'm evil. But when I discovered that Tombra was behind the kidnappings, and when she kidnapped me and made you sell my businesses for punishment for what I did to you, I realized how wicked I had been. I realized how wickedness only brings more wickedness. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. She fell on her knees before her husband, crying and begging. Please forgive me. I know I don't deserve it, but please, I have learned my lessons. I have changed. Forgive me. The whole place was in chaos. People were shouting, some were crying, some were just standing there with their mouths open, unable to believe what they were hearing. Gospower walked slowly to Tombra. His face was a mix of disappointment, pain and anger. Tombra, he said quietly. His voice was shaking with emotion. We sent you money every month, even when we were struggling abroad. When we were working multiple jobs, we never forgot you. We helped you. We fed you even though you complained about every single amount we sent. Is this how you repay us? By kidnapping us? By terrorizing us? By stealing from us? Tombra couldn't answer. She just knelt there crying like a child. Do you know that Sister Blessing couldn't sleep for weeks after she was released? She had nightmares. She was seeing therapists. But Atamuno developed high blood pressure from the stress. Sister Abi's children in Germany were crying every day, thinking their mother was dead. They were all traumatized. And you, family member, did this to us, our own flesh and blood. Uncle Ebikini, despite his own pain about his wife's betrayal, walked forward and stood in front of Tombra. His old face was wet with tears. Tombra, he said sadly, when you came to my house, begging me to save my wife, you looked me in the eye and pretended to care, but all along, it was you. You were the kidnapper. You were the enemy. How? How did you become like this? Tombra finally found her voice. Between sobs, she said,
I was tired. I was tired of being poor. I was tired of begging. I was tired of watching my siblings enjoy life while I suffered. I wanted money. I wanted a good life. I didn't think about the pain I was causing. I was just thinking for myself.
We were enjoying life. Can you imagine this lady? She thinks abroad is so easy. Selfish woman, someone shouted from the crowd. Greedy, another person yelled. Then someone called out, where is the police? Call the police. These criminals must be arrested. Yes, call the police. The crowd started chanting. Tombra and Preye started panicking. They looked around like trapped rats looking for escape, but there was nowhere to run. The crowd had surrendered them.
Please have mercy. I will return the money. I will return everything. Just don't send me to prison, please.
But the family members were too angry, too hot, too betrayed. You showed us no mercy when you kidnapped us, Sister Blessing said coldly. Why should we now show you mercy? You made us suffer. Now it is your turn to suffer, Brother Tari added. Preye, seeing that there was no escape, suddenly started crying and confessing everything. It was all her idea, he shouted, pointing at Tombra.
She forced me to do it. She called me a weakling, she called me a coward, and she threatened me. I didn't want to do it, but she made me.
Liar! Tombra screamed at her husband. You enjoyed the money, the cars, everything. Don't blame only me. The two of them started fighting each other, pulling each other's hairs, fighting and slapping. Like the elders say, when thieves are caught, they turn against each other, and that was exactly what was happening. Suddenly, the sound of police sirens filled the air. 3 police vehicles came speeding into the village square. Officers jumped out wearing their black uniforms and carrying batons. Nobody move, the police commander shouted. Received a report of criminal activity here. Where are the suspects? The crowd pointed at Tombra and Preye. Those two, they are kidnappers. They have been terrorizing this family. The police officers quickly handcuffed both Tombra and Preye. You're under arrest for kidnapping, extortion, and criminal conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you in the court of law. Tombra was crying, screaming and begging.
No, please, I have children.
She was lying. She had no children, but she was desperate. You should have thought about that before you became a criminal, the police commander said sternly. They dragged both of them towards the police van like 2 bunches of garbage. Before they put them inside, Gospel walked up to Tombra one last time. He looked at her with sad eyes and said, Tombra, I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I'm a child of God and I must forgive. But forgiveness doesn't mean there are no consequences. You must face the law. You must pay for what you have done. Maybe in prison you will learn that greed is a pit that swallows the greedy person himself. With that, Tombra and Preye were shoved into the police van. The sirens started again and the vans drove away, taking the 2 criminals to face justice. The crowd stood there in silence for a moment, trying to process everything that had just happened. Then someone started clapping. Slowly at first, others joined. Soon the whole crowd was clapping and cheering. Justice had been served. God is not asleep. After the police left with Tombra and Preye, attention turned to Prima and Chief Ebikini. Chief Ebikini was standing there looking at his wife with a mixture of pain and confusion. Prima was still on her knees crying. My husband,
I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I was evil. I was wicked. I wanted you dead. But God has opened my eyes. I have seen the error of my ways. Please forgive me.
Chief Ebikini was quiet for a while. You could hear his breathing. heavy and painful like someone carrying a great burden. Finally he spoke. Prima, what you did was unforgivable. You wanted to kill me, your own husband, the man who gave you everything. How can I trust you again?
I know I broke your trust, but I'm willing to spend the rest of my life proving to you that I've changed. Please, give me a chance.
Prima sobbed. Gospel, who had been watching, came forward and placed his hand on his uncle's shoulder. Uncle, this is your decision to make. But remember what the Bible says. Forgive and you will be forgiven. None of us are perfect. We have all sinned and we have all fallen short. Chief Ebikimi looked at his nephew, then looked at his wife. He looked up at the sky as if asking God for guidance. After what felt like forever, he spoke. Prima, I forgive you. The whole crowd was surprised. But Chief Ebikimi continued, raising his hands. I will not take you back as my wife. What you did has destroyed our marriage. The trust is gone. The love is dead. I forgive you, but we cannot continue together. You will leave my house, you will go your own way, and I will go mine. Prima's heart broke, but she understood. She nodded slowly. I accept your decision. Thank you for forgiving me. I don't even deserve that. She stood up, wiped her tears, and walked away with her head bowed in shame. Some people in the crowd felt sorry for her. Others thought she deserved it, but everyone agreed on one thing, that actions have consequences. The story of what happened at Mama's burial spread across like wildfire. It was on the news, on social media. Everyone was talking about the wicked woman who kidnapped her own family members. The police investigation was thorough. They traced all the money Tombra and Priye had stolen. They found the mansion, the cars, the bank accounts, everything was seized. A total of 90 million naira was recovered, including the mansion, the cars, jewelry and other properties. The money was returned to the family members who had paid ransoms. It was not the full amount they had lost, but it was something. As for the cars and houses that were sold during the time they were looking for money to get the ransom, they are gone forever, but at least justice was served. The trial was quick because the evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the pictures, the testimony from the kidnappers themselves, who were also arrested, everything pointed to Tombra and Priye. The judge, a stern woman who had zero tolerance for nonsense, banged her gavel and declared, Tombra, you have been found guilty of kidnapping, extortion and criminal conspiracy. For your crimes, you are sentenced to 6 years imprisonment with hard labor. Tombra screamed and fainted. They had to carry her out of the courtroom. The judge turned to Priye. You, sir, are equally guilty. However, considering that you showed some remorse and you cooperated with the investigation, I sentence you to 4 years imprisonment with hard labor. Priye just stood there like a statue, accepting his fate. And just like that, their fate was sealed. They were taken to Kirikiri Maximum Security Prison, where they would spend the next several years breaking rocks, cleaning toilets, and thinking about their foolish choices. Back in the village, the family gathered one more time before everyone returned to their different countries. They sat together in a circle. This has been the most difficult period of our family's history. Gospel said sadly, we have lost money, trust, family member, to greed and wickedness, but we have learned valuable lessons. Yes, Sister Blessing agreed. We learned that the love of money is the root of all evil. Tombra loved money more than she loved her own family. We also learned that laziness and entitlement is a dangerous combination. If Tombra had just worked hard like the rest of us, she would have made something of herself. But Atari added, and we also learned that you cannot build happiness on other people's suffering. The money Tombra stole brought her temporary pleasure, but in the end, it brought permanent destruction. Chief Ebikimi, who had been quiet, finally spoke. And I learned that sometimes, the person lying in your bed can be your greatest enemy. I was blind to my wife's wickedness, but God opened my eyes before it was too late. They all nodded in agreement. Gospel stood up and raised his hand to heaven. Despite everything that had happened, we thank God. We thank God that nobody died. We thank God that we recovered our money. We thank God that justice was served. And we thank God that our family, even though wounded, is still together. Amen. Everyone chorused. They hugged each other, cried together, prayed together. Then they made a vow. From this day forward, we will work hard. We'll be content with what we have. We'll help each other without greed, and we'll never betray family again. Meanwhile, in Kirikiri prison, Tombra was lying on her hard prison bed, staring at the ceiling. The prison cell was dark, cold, and smelly. There were 5 other women in the cell with her: armed robbers, drug dealers, murderers. They were hardened criminals, and they didn't like Tombra because they heard she had kidnapped her own family. Family kidnapper. They would mock her. Even criminals get code of honor, but you have none. Tombra would cry herself to sleep every night. She thought about the mansion that was seized by the government. She thought about her Mercedes Benz that she would never drive again. She thought about her expensive clothes that were now evidence in a police station. She thought about the life she could have had if only she had made better choices. The prison food was terrible. Watery beans, hard rice, and sometimes just garri with salt. Nothing like the expensive restaurant food she had been eating. Every morning she had to wake up at 5 a.m. to clean toilets, sweep floors, and do hard labor under the hot sun. Her soft hands, that had never done real work, were now covered with blisters and calluses. Faster! Walk faster, my friend! You think this is a hotel? Move! Tombra would cry as she walked, thinking, how did I get here? How did my life end up like this? One day, an old woman, a fellow prisoner who was serving time for fraud, came and sat beside Tombra during their lunch break. My daughter, the old woman said kindly, I can see you're suffering. You are crying every day. But let me tell you something. Prison is not the end. Prison is a teacher. It teaches you lessons you refuse to learn outside. Now you have 6 years to think, to reflect, to change and become a better person. Tombra looked at the woman with tears in her eyes. But I've lost everything. My family hates me. My husband is also in prison. My reputation is destroyed. What's there to live for? The old woman smiled sadly. You still have your life. You still have your future. 6 years will pass, and when you come out, you will have a choice. You can come out bitter and angry and become a worse criminal, or you can come out humble, changed, and determined to make things right. The choice is yours. Those words sank deep into Tombra's heart. From that day, something began to change in her, slowly and gradually. She started attending the prison chapel services. She started reading the Bible. She started praying. She started asking God for forgiveness. She also wrote letters to her family members apologizing over and over. Most of her family members threw away her letters without reading them. But Sister Blessing, who had the softest heart, read one letter and cried. Then she wrote back, Tombra, what you did was evil, but I am trying to forgive you. It's hard and painful, but I am trying. Use your time in prison to change. Truly change, not just pretend. When you come out, maybe we can rebuild some kind of relationship, but it will take time, a long, long time. When Tombra received that letter, she cried like a baby. At least one person was willing to give her a chance. One person had not completely given up on her. It was a small light of hope in her dark prison cell. 6 years passed, slowly, like a snail climbing a mountain. Finally, the day came when Tombra was released from prison. She walked out of the prison gate, a completely different woman. Her hair had turned grey, her face had aged, her body was stained, but her eyes were different. They were no longer filled with greed and wickedness. They were filled with remorse, wisdom, and a desperate desire to make amends. Prayer had been released 2 years earlier because of his sentence was shorter. But when he got out, he was so ashamed that he left Warri completely. Nobody knew where he went. Some said he moved to another state and changed his name. Some said he moved to a village and became a farmer. No one knew for sure. He just disappeared like smoke in the wind. As for Tombra, she had nowhere to go. Her family had disowned her. She had no money or house. Nothing. Sister Blessing, true to her kind heart, sent Tombra some money and a message. This is not forgiveness yet, but this is mercy. Use this money to rent a small room and start your life over. Work hard, be honest, prove that you have truly changed. Tombra used the money to rent a tiny room in a poor neighborhood. She got a job as a cleaner in a market. But she did it with humility. She did the job with gratitude. She did it with understanding that this is her redemption and her second chance. For every evening after work, she would go to churches and tell them her story, especially to young people. Don't be like me, she would warn them, tears streaming down her face. Don't let greed destroy your life. Work hard, be content, be grateful, because the end of wickedness is destruction. Some people would listen, some would mock her, but she didn't care. She was determined to spend the rest of her life warning others not to make her mistakes. And so, my dear viewers, this story comes to an end. The moral lesson reminds us that greed destroys. Tombra's greed made her lose everything. Laziness is dangerous. If Tombra had worked hard instead of waiting for handouts, she would have succeeded in life. Family betrayal is the worst kind of wickedness. The people who trusted you most are the people you should protect, not destroy. Crime never pays. Even if it does for a while, it will still end in destruction. Wickedness will always be exposed because you cannot hide truth forever. There's always a chance for redemption. Even the most wicked person can change if they truly want to, but they must be willing to pay the price and work hard to rebuild. Forgiveness is powerful, but truth must be earned. The family forgave Tombra, but they would never trust her again. So, my people, whenever you see money that does not belong to you, remember Tombra. Whenever you feel jealous of other people's success, remember Tombra. Whenever you want to take shortcuts instead of working hard, remember Tombra. Because the elders say the person who plants evil will harvest disaster, and the person who refuses to work hard will end up begging from the person who works hard. Work hard, be content, be grateful, be honest, and trust in God. That is the end of this story.